In the world of AI, there's a really big shift happening, like right now. We're all moving on from AI that just creates stuff for us, like a poem or a picture, to an AI that can actually do stuff. We're talking about AI that completes tasks and takes action out in the world. This is the rise of Agentic AI, and believe me, it is changing everything. This quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. The whole conversation around AI has fundamentally changed. It's not just a cool tool for writing an email or summarizing a document anymore. No, it's evolving into something more like a functional worker, a digital teammate that can actually execute some pretty complex jobs. So if there's one thing to take away, it's this distinction right here. On one side, you've got generative AI. We all know it, we all use it. You give it a prompt, and boom, it creates content. But on the other side, you have agentic AI. You don't give it a prompt, you give it a goal, and it takes real action to get it done. Basically, one is a creator, and the other is a doer. Okay, to really wrap our heads around this shift, let's first take a closer look at the AI we're already super familiar with. Yep, generative AI, the engine that powers tools like ChatGPT. I love this metaphor because it's just so perfect. Think about it. Generative AI is brilliant, absolutely. It can pull from unbelievable amounts of information, it can reason, it can generate amazing text or code, but it's disconnected. It really is like a brain in a jar. It has no hands. It can only see the world through the text that we feed it. And that right there, that's the core problem. It can write you a flawless step-by-step plan for how to process a customer's refund, but can it actually log into the payment system, check the database for eligibility, and hit the confirm button? Nope. It can describe the action, but it can't take the action. And this, my friends, is where agentic AI enters the picture. This is the tech that finally connects that brilliant brain to a body. It gives it the hands and feet it needs to actually start acting in the digital world. So what is an agentic AI really? Well, it's a system that can operate on its own. You give it a big picture goal, and it starts making its own decisions, it formulates a plan, and this is the most important part. It uses tools like APIs or databases or code interpreters to actually execute that plan, all with very little human handholding. So let's go back to that refund example. A generative AI, it writes a nice email explaining the refund policy. An agentic AI, on the other hand, gets the customer's request, logs into the system to pull up their order, checks the rules to see if they're eligible, processes the refund in the payment system, and then it sends the confirmation email. It does the whole thing from start to finish. This loop you see here is basically the heartbeat of how these agents think. It's a cycle that just keeps going. First, it perceives the goal. What do I need to do? Then it plans, breaking that big goal down into smaller, bite-sized steps. Then it executes, using its tools to get the job done. And finally, it reflects. It checks its work, asks, did that work? And if not, it tweaks the plan and tries again. So the big question is, how are developers actually giving AI these incredible new powers? Well, it's not just about building a bigger, more powerful model. It's about building a smarter architecture for that model to work within. This quote from the AI pioneer, Andrew Ng, is so important. He's basically saying that the biggest performance boosts aren't just coming from the models themselves, but from these new agentic workflows. In other words, the process you build around the AI, the architecture, is just as important, maybe even more important, than the raw power of the AI model itself. And this lays it all out perfectly. These are Ng's 4 key design patterns. You have reflection, where the AI basically acts as its own editor, checking and improving its own work. Then there's tool use. This is what gives the AI its hands to interact with the world. Planning is its ability to strategize. And maybe the coolest one, multi-agent collaboration, which is like building a whole team of specialized AIs that work together, each playing a different role. Okay, so we've covered the what and the how. Now let's look at the toolkit. What are developers actually using to build these incredible agentic systems? There are a few key frameworks that are really leading the pack. This chart gives you a really great side-by-side of the big 3 right now. You've got LangChain, which is kind of the original. It's the Swiss Army knife, super powerful, super flexible, but it's got a pretty steep learning curve. Then there's Microsoft's AutoGen, which is all about creating these conversational teams of AIs that sort of chat with each other to solve problems. It's awesome for really complex coding tasks. And finally, you have Crew AI, a newer player that's focused on role-playing crews, making it much easier to get started and perfect for structured business tasks. All right, we've got the concepts and the tools down. So, what does this all mean for the real world? Well, the potential is absolutely massive. But as with any technology this powerful, the challenges are just as big. To put some numbers on it, McKinsey estimates that AI could inject up to $4.4 trillion into the global economy every single year. And a huge chunk of that value isn't just going to come from generating text. It's going to come from automating entire workflows. And that is the home turf of agentic AI. Of course, it's not all that simple. I mean, is it ever? Giving AI the freedom to act on its own opens up a whole new can of worms, a whole new set of really tricky problems we've got to solve. And here are some of the big ones. Debugging. It's a nightmare. Trying to figure out why a system of three AIs arguing with each other just crashed is a totally new kind of headache. Safety and control are obviously huge. You have to build really strong guardrails to keep an agent from going off and doing something unintended. And finally, observability is key. It's not enough to know that an agent deleted a file, you need to be able to look under the hood and see why it decided to do that. And when we look ahead, the trend isn't really about creating a single, all-powerful, godlike AI that can do everything. Nope. The future is much more likely to be a swarm of smaller, cheaper, and highly specialized agents that all work together to get a big job done. So think less of a single generalist and more like a team of experts. And that really leaves us with this final thought. For years, the big race in AI was all about building models that could give us a better answer. But with agentic AI, the new frontier, the new goal, is building systems that can deliver a completed task. It's a massive shift from just knowledge to actual action, and it is going to completely reshape how all of us work with technology.